Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Mike Kollin at MikeKollin.com. Okay, so this video is going to bounce off of last video. I don't think you need to watch that video to understand this video because I'm going to introduce the same concept but then take it a little bit further. I think if you did watch the last video, it will help you understand this one because this is kind of some NLP conceptual concepts. So essentially I'm restudying NLP, as I've said in quite a few videos now, and one of the categories I'm going over right now is what we call scope and category. Okay, so I'm going to really simplify this because this isn't a training in that, but it's to help you to understand something that may have happened to you, probably has happened to a lot of people in general, that has kind of threw you off course. And as most of you that have came to this channel over the last 5 years, if you've dealt with narcissist abuse, they have absolutely done this to you. And this is why you felt like you were no good at something you were always good about, or you were really good at something and you have no confidence anymore. You feel like you can't socialize anymore. So they did something to you, and I'm going to help to explain neurologically without getting too scientific, to just kind of make it really simple and be like, hey, here's what they did and here's how they did it, and leave you with the message that yes, we can change that back. Okay, so real briefly, I'm going to give you an idea of how our brain organizes. So we do something unconsciously, and when I point it out to you, you're like, oh wow, like you can see yourself doing it, and especially when you're talking to someone else, you can see them do it. We all do it all the time. I'm doing it right now as I'm talking. So we organize our thoughts in a very specific way, okay? So our eye patterns will unconsciously look at an image to right in front of us, but 6 inches to the right, and it might be about 6 inches by 8 inches. Then we might look down and to the left, maybe right in front of our heart area, but a little about, say, 5 inches to the left of your chest, and about 2 feet out, and it has an image that's about 8 inches by 8 inches, and so forth. We have big images, small, dark, kind of like the image we're looking at now. Now it just shifted from this kind of Golden Gate Bridge, blue highlight at the top with orange in the center of the Golden Gate Bridge, to this dark, everything is dark. It's kind of got a figure in the center with a sword with fire. It's got kind of like a whitish fog that's around him. So these are what we call submodalities. Now, depending on how big your screen is, depending on what you're looking at, if you're looking at a cell phone, it's probably going to be about, 3 inches by 4 inches or something. I don't know, it depends on how big your cell phone is. I'm on a MacBook Pro, so it's probably 13.5 inches by, I think, 11 inches tall. Now, separate from any kind of computer device, I didn't really want to bring that into the picture. What I was trying to say is, on an unconscious level, we store information like filing cabinets, okay? There's one at the bottom, one above that, one above that, one above that, and one above that. And then over to the right, there's another filing cabinet, and then so far all the way down. Then over to the left, there's another one, and so forth. So we store our memories, usually visually, sometimes auditorily, in this manner. Okay, let's do an exercise. I'm going to give you a real life example, okay? So let's do this, and we did it in the last one. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to think of a person that you trust, and even if they passed away, it was someone from the past, but someone that you just trusted, like they were always good to you. You knew you could trust them. So I want you to go ahead and think of that person. Okay. Now what I want you to do is begin to notice where that image is. Is it 12 inches in front of you? Is it 2 feet in front of you? Is it to the right? Notice how big it is. Is it dim and dark? Is it bright and shiny? Is it colorful? Does it have a frame? Does it not have a frame? Is it panoramic? So start to notice these things, okay? Now what I want you to do is I want you to think of someone that you don't trust. And like in the last video I said, a lot of you probably have someone like that, meaning a narcissist, okay? Because a lot of you that came to this channel over the last 5 years came for my narcissist videos. Okay, so now that you have someone that you don't trust, notice where that image comes from. So that image might be to the left and in front of your chest and down, okay? Now, it's different for everybody, so for you, just notice where it is. What I really want you to notice is the difference in location compared to the first one, the person that you trust. Now, what I want you to do is then begin to notice the differences between the images. Like one might be brighter, one might be closer, one might be smaller. One might be more colorful, one might be a little bit darker, maybe a lot darker. And again, notice the location, the differences in the location. Now, this is an example of how our brain organizes memories and experiences. So people that you don't trust, whoop, they go over into that area, we'll call it that category, that filing cabinet, where you have someone that you don't trust. And people that you do trust, whoop, they pop up in this other area where you do trust people. This is how our brain organizes our memories, experiences, etc., etc. So let's say someone comes to me and they're very successful. Okay, they make $1.2 million a year or maybe a month. They own the huge business. They do this, they do that. They got a beautiful wife, beautiful kids. They've got a great family. Kids all get great grades. Everyone's healthy and happy. But even though they show on paperwork and literally in the world, they're a very happy, successful, or let's stick to one successful person. And yet, they don't feel successful. So in their mind or their heart, they're like, yeah, I just don't feel like I'm successful, no matter how rich they get, or how many trophies they win, or awards, or whatever. So what I'll have them do is I'll have them notice, like, so where do you see that image of you succeeding? Like, well, it's down and over here. It's like, oh, okay. And I'll have them describe it, like how big is it, like how far away is it like close, is it far, is it big picture small? They say, well, it's about 7 inches by 10 inches, blah blah blah. I say, is there a frame? Like, well, yeah, there's a frame. And okay. And so then what I'll do, I'll say, is it bright, is it shiny, is it dim, is it dark, is it colorful, is it black and white, is it gray, like what is it? And they'll describe it. I go, is there anything standing out? Like in this image, it's the sword with the fire flying off of it. So then I'll say, okay, well, is there something that you do that you feel really good about? Like, for example, like, are you intelligent? And I'm like, well, yeah, I'm actually a pretty intelligent person. I'm like, okay, well, are you sure about that? And I'm like, well, yeah, actually, I got really good grades. I got this, I got that. I scored high on the IQ test. I did this, I did that. I'm like, oh, okay, so like where do those images come from? They're like, oh, well, that's actually up and to the right, about where my forehead is, but over to the right about 8 or 10 inches, and it's in front of me. It's about, I'd say, about 1.5 feet in front of me, and it's kind of a big, bright, shiny, colorful, set of images of memories. Like when I got all straight A's, and I had my report card, I'm holding that. Another time was when I got my master's degree, and I was valedictorian, blah, blah, blah. And he has all these memories and images of being intelligent. And okay, now watch this. And I say, well, do you actually believe and or feel that you're intelligent? He's like, oh, yeah, absolutely. That's very congruent. So now watch what we can do with this. We can take the submodalities or his other image, and then we could shift those up and over to where he organizes, or where he should say categorizes, where he feels intelligent, okay, and it's congruent, and he feels like, yeah, I feel congruent. So now we take success, we put it up there, and we change the submodalities to be bright and shiny and colorful. Where before he was successful, but he didn't feel successful. It was dim, it was dark, it was down and to the left. It was, it was just wasn't colorful. It wasn't bright. It was a smaller image. It was kind of tucked away. Whereas now we put it up here and we lock it in. We match it. We match the submodalities, same color, same size. If this has a frame, let's say this one doesn't have a frame, because the other one did have a frame. Okay, the success, but he didn't feel good about it. So we put it up and to the right, above his, or in front of his forehead, out about, I forget what I said, 1.5 feet or whatever I said. And we make the frame the same size, make it the same brightness, same color, same everything. And all of a sudden say, how do you feel about being successful now? He's like, yeah, I feel very successful. And like, I feel really good. So here's what happened. he had something that we call imposter syndrome. For the longest time, I didn't understand what that meant, and I didn't think I had it. And then someone goes, "What are you talking about? Like, you're the epitome of imposter syndrome." I go, "What are you talking about? I'm not fake." They're like, "No, like, dude, like, you've won national champion after national championship after national championship. You're straight A. You did this in football, wrestling, choir. You know." He goes, "Everything you've done, you've been very, very good at it, and yet you think you're not good at anything." I'm like, "That's imposter syndrome?" He's like, "Yeah." So I Googled it and looked up. Imposter syndrome is when you're actually good at stuff, but you don't think you are. Guess where that comes from? Yep, narcissist abuse. Now, I'm going to go back into that, but I want to show you something before I explain that. Yeah, let me just do this first. Okay, so kind of look left, look right, look up, take a deep breath. This breaks your pattern. Okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go back to the first question when I said, like, think of someone you trust and notice where that image is coming from. Notice the color, size, brightness, location especially. And then go to the other one, someone you don't trust. Okay, and notice the location that's in. Notice the color, the brightness, the size, you know, all of it. Is it colorful? Is it dim? Is it dark? Whatever. Now watch this. Here's what I want you to do, and we're only going to do it for a second. We're going to let it go back, because it'll probably go back on its own anyways. You'll see why. I want you to take the image of someone you don't trust and then put it in the same location as the person that you do trust and match it up exactly. If the person you trust has a frame, put a frame around the one you don't trust. Put it in the same location, make it the same size, the same color, the same brightness, and if it's colorful, make it colorful, make it match the person you trust. What you may notice, and now I did this just a couple hours ago, I actually started to trust that person. Now you're probably going, "I don't want to do that," so don't. So your body, I'm feeling it in my heart right now, it's wanting to pull back down over to where I don't trust people. So allow that to go right back down where you don't trust people. Make it the same color, same size, same location. If it had a frame, let the frame go back on, whatever, okay? So what you may have noticed when I asked you to do that, you may have started noticing, like, that's really weird. I actually kind of trust this person, but your heart probably still felt tight. At least mine did. Here's the point. If we can shift your experiences, and this can build up your self-esteem. Now, what narcissists do is they shift it in the other way. All right, for example, I was a silver glove state boxing champion when I was a kid. I think I was like 12 years old, 13. By the way, silver gloves is 14 and under, and golden gloves is over 14, okay? Or maybe it was 13 and under, I don't remember exactly. So I was a state champion, came home, and everybody was upstairs, and I came up and I showed them, and they're like, "Yeah, shoot, we're watching TV, Michael, we're watching TV," because it was nighttime. And I'm thinking, like, nobody cares. I was like, "Oh, okay, well, that's kind of weird." And so I took a shower and ate and went to bed, and I woke up the next morning, felt good about myself, and I rode my little BMX bike to the elementary school because it was about a block and a half away, and it was in the morning. I think it was like a Saturday or Sunday. Nobody was there, and then my brother shows up. He goes, "You know what? Why don't you just quit boxing?" I'm like, "Why?" He goes, "You suck." I'm like, now in my mind, I'm like, I just won the state championship last night. Now what happened? The image of me winning the state championship, whoop, it pops up. Now so far it's in a positive place, but then he goes, "Yeah, you suck." Now while the image is up, he's going, "Why don't you just quit?" I'm like, "Why?" He goes, "Well, you're no good." So now I'm connecting no good to that image. And he goes, "Why don't you just quit?" He goes, "You've been practicing for like a year or two." He goes, "You suck." And I'm like, "What do you mean I suck? I just won the state championship." And his championship, last night. But he ignored that, and he kept going on and just saying you suck. Well, this is one of the ways narcissists will get inside your submodalities and your categories, and they'll begin to screw things up. And then what they did, they started going, on the one hand I suck, but then the next week it's like, "Oh, he's dangerous. Oh, so I suck, and I'm no good at it." But then a week later, "I'm so dangerous because I'm so good at it. Oh, he's dangerous. He's bad. He's a monster." And so what they do is they connect all these negative things to it, even if they're complete opposites. Now, there's something in if you've heard of the pickup artist community, many years ago was kind of an explosion of teaching men how to meet women, talk to women, pick up on women, etc. Now, there's a couple things that I really didn't like about it, and it started to reveal itself. A lot of the stuff was being taught. Now, at the time, I didn't know what the word narcissist was or what a narcissist was, but they started teaching some really negative things, and one of them was called negging. And negging is where, instead of saying, "Oh, you're so beautiful," you go, "Oh, you got a piece of lint in your hair," and you act like you're pulling a piece of lint out of her hair. And they have other tactics like that to cut down their self-esteem. And I thought, that's messed up. I'm not going to do that. So I began to notice some, not all, but some of these techniques were basically for men that didn't have self-esteem, and they felt like they had to cut the woman down in order to feel good about themselves and to feel confident around her, which, well, that's a narcissist. Now, at the time, I didn't know what narcissist abuse was or what narcissism was, but I knew that, like, I'm not going to teach that. That's something I'm not going to do, I'm not going to use, I'm not going to teach. Because what I do is I teach men, here's the deal. When men are in their left brain, especially when it's in a social situation, it makes them feel very insecure because you're supposed to be in your right brain, which allows you to feel comfortable all by yourself. In other words, you don't need to hurt someone's feelings or cut their emotions down or cut their self-esteem down in order to feel good about yourself. When you learn how to shift and drop down inside and be internal, it makes you what we call emotionally grounded, and you suddenly feel comfortable talking to anybody. And there's no need to cut anyone's self-esteem down. In fact, you can build them up. And here's the really interesting and fun thing, or good thing. They feel good by being around you when you're emotionally grounded. If you're interested in taking that course, that's my course called Cracked Female Code. I would start out by buying my book first, Cracked Female Code. Alright, now let me give you another real life example of how people can mess with your categories, okay? Or, scope and category I'm talking about. Or let's just say the images that I just described, whether someone you trust, whether you're successful but you don't feel successful. So they start messing with you, and let me give you an example. It'll be the easiest way for you to understand. Okay, so here's what this is what the pickup artist community was teaching guys, and it's a really messed up thing. I do not approve of it. I do not like it at all. So you know how I just asked you some questions and say, hey, notice where that image is? Well, again, here's what I want you to do. When you're talking to someone after this video, tomorrow, whenever, notice how they look left, right, up, down, in front, maybe front, slightly down. And notice how you can almost see how big or how small the images are. And sometimes you can even notice like, oh, that's kind of a dim image, or oh, that's really bright and colorful. Like you can just tell without them even describing it. So one of the things these guys were teaching each other is like, so when you're talking to a girl, get her to talk about her boyfriend and say, hey, so why do you like your boyfriend? All right. And what they'll do is they'll look in one of these categories. So let's say she looks over to the right and it's down about where her bicep is, right, or her elbow, and it's out in front of her about 1.5 feet, and she goes, oh, my boyfriend, oh, he's this and that, and really positive stuff, right? Like, oh, I love him because he's this and he loves me and he does this and he does that and he makes me feel so good inside. Now here's what they do. They're like, then what you do is you lean over and you speak into the image negative stuff. Oh, how's your boyfriend? And they'll do stuff like that, and they'll say negative stuff, or they'll talk about negative stories, and they're shooting it into that image, that positive image he has. And what happens is now that image is connecting this negativity, so when she looks at it, she has negative thoughts about her boyfriend. That is messed up. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because I don't want to say because I believe every human being on the planet has dealt with a narcissist at some time in their life, and probably multiple times without even realizing it. So I'm going to say it that way anyways. If you've dealt with a narcissist, I guarantee you they've done stuff like this to you, and this is what has ruined your self-esteem. This is what made you suddenly, like over a period of time, you felt like you were no good at what you used to feel good about. Like you don't have confidence in yourself. You don't have confidence in your skill set or something that you do professionally. You were surrounded by people that were doing all these little mind games and little tricks. Now, here's the good news. we can shift it back. Not only can we shift it back, but we can make it more empowering. When I say we, I mean me. I'm a professionally trained NLP trainer, master Ericksonian hypnotherapist, etc., timeline therapist, etc. So what I'm talking about is submodalities and shifting these categories and reframing them, reshifting them back into the place where it's healthy, where it's strong, where it makes you feel good about yourself and confident. So if you need help getting out of the doldrums, getting out of being depressed, feeling insecure about what you do for a living, or just feeling insecure, having a hard time going out, we can shift all this around. We can get you back on track. Okay guys, that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something, and if you need help shifting these back into much more confident and positive feelings, get a hold of me. This is what I do professionally. I help people heal mentally, emotionally, and physically and spiritually. If you need help in any of these areas, please get a hold of me. This is what I'm professionally trained in. It's all about happiness, love, and good energy. God bless you guys. Alright, that's it. If you enjoyed this video, please click subscribe, click the like button, go ahead and make a comment, and if you want, you can go ahead and make a donation. There's a PayPal link right there in the description box. God bless you guys. I'll see you soon in the next video. Bye.